Welcome to another episode of Uprooting Passion, where I get to talk with very passionate individuals, inspiring individuals, and connect their roots to what they're pursuing today. And I'm very excited to be here today with Sandra. Hello, Sandra. Thank you so much for letting me share your story. How are you?
Hi, Kayla. I'm good. And how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's cold here in Washington, D.C., so staying warm.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Same here. We're experiencing some rainfall. We're happy from our
Oh,
side
good.
of Zambia. Where, like last year, we had a drought, and now we've got heavy rains. We're having the floods. It's really good time for us. As much as we would like it to be a little bit dry, but we are thankful for the rains.
Of course, yeah.
Hopefully, this helps to improve some of the challenges that we've been facing out here. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for
right.
inviting me.
Yeah. Well, it's so good to hear. And you've had such an impressive career, and I'm excited to talk about that. But in the style of my interviews, let's just go back to your roots. Tell me about where and you grew up or where you were raised in Zambia.
Okay. I am born and bred Lusaka based, which is the capital city of Zambia, in the urban areas of Zambia. Um, to be particular, for those who might have some information about Zambia and Lusaka, I was born and raised in Makeni, um, which is on the southern part of Lusaka, by my parents, both my mother and father. Born from a very big family. I have siblings from my mother's side, my dad's side, but the only child between my parents. And that, I think, to me, from the word inception, I was born like as very independent, trying to be the person who unites the two siblings from your mother's side and father's side. So that's the kind of background. Big family. I
Right.
think we were about 10 children in the home, and me being the youngest. So I had all the support I could get from my siblings as well as from my parents. It was really great childhood for me, I must say.
Wow. Yeah, big family, and that's really interesting, like you said, like being the only child from your mother and father and being so independent. I can see how that maybe plays into how you are today and what drives you today. And
Yeah.
what were some of the key principles or key lessons that you think were taught to you or very much so pushed on to you from a young age?
Okay. I think I would draw it back to the aspect of being very independent. Me being the last child of my mom,
Mhm.
I think she was a little bit tired after having six or so children, and she was just seeing me like, oh, this is like my, maybe not her child, but grandchild, because I think if you look at my elder siblings, the age difference is quite huge and they're way older than me. I really had my siblings looking at them like my parents. So I think from that background, I noticed the approach that they had with me was not really like one where they had this baby they had to care for, but they expected me to really be independent from the word go. I
Mhm.
remember immediately going into high school after my primary school. I had to go to a school that was almost 6 kilometers away from home. I used to use public transport while my dad had a car at home, but he would encourage me to say, no, you go with the private transport. And with that, because of my travels and the like, he introduced me to the principle of managing my own finances to the level that he would give me money for my transport to and from school for the whole month. So he gives you a budget. This is what you're spending during the month. And I was not expected to go back to say I overspent the money. I
Yeah.
don't have it anymore. Can you give me more money for school? So with that principle, I already knew how to budget. Budgeting was already
Mhm.
built into me because I had to think, look, I've been given an allocation, which I couldn't pay obviously with the transport system upfront, but I needed to spend from that fund on a daily basis. Thankfully, my parents were also still there to support me. They would check on me. How are you doing with your money? Did you spend well last week? Are you still okay? Things like that. And I was expected to ensure that I managed that fund for the month well. And he gave me a reward if I managed to to use or save some money from that allocation. So I was already motivated knowing, oh, if I spend this money or I'll save at the end of the month, he will either double it, give
Oh,
me more, giving me opportunity to have extra or buy something after that. So
yeah.
I grew up quite very independent, both in terms of trying to find my way in terms of how to get things done, as well as financially. I think I started managing funds quite at an early stage of my life.
Wow, which would explain so much in your career, but just to like comment, budgeting and knowing how to manage your finances is such valuable knowledge that I wish was more taught in schools because it's such a socio-cultural thing. Like if your parents teach you it, like it's great to teach it at a young age. That's such a great life lesson for sure, or great, yeah. And so that I'm assuming motivated you to then study accounting and finance? Or how did you get into that field? Did you know very sure what you wanted to do?
No. Growing up, I wanted to study pharmacy. I
Wow.
think I was like, I want to be a pharmacist. At some point, I wanted to do something to do with travel and tourism and the like. And then I was growing up, I was very slim, like a model, and everyone around me would like, yeah, you're a supermodel, go for Miss Universe, do that. So I started thinking that I would have a career around that industry in terms of tourism, entertainment, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But my father was an accountant and programmer. So he was self-employed. He was running his own accounting firm, where I used to go to work at an early stage. I think as young as 13.
Wow.
When we closed school, it's holidays, he would invite me over, give me some information books to capture into the system. So
Mhm.
in terms of early usage of computers, I was already there. I was introduced to accounting quite at an early stage. My siblings, none of them had interest in accounting. And I'm sure it's typical of a parent to want one of his child to do something like him.
Mhm.
So I used to go there to do my work, I think, from as early as 13. Even immediately I finished my high school, the O levels, I joined him. Though he gave me an opportunity to say, you know what, I don't want you to think it's accounting and accounting. Go and explore. If you want to try out something else, you're free to do.
Mhm.
So I think I took a year where I tried to find a job immediately after high school as I was waiting for my results and to know where I'll be placed in university.
Mhm.
So I was out there already looking for a job. I was eager to work. So I think I spent some months looking, wasn't so successful. So I think maybe from the efforts, my father was just like, you know what, just come join me. Maybe at some stage you'll be able to discover what it is you want to do. So I immediately joined him. And when I started after high school, then he started introducing me to accounts because he was dealing with different clients. He allocated me to work on certain clients' tasks. So I was already doing accounts. So
Nice.
my results came and it was time to go to university. And at that point, I was already now into accounts and I was enjoying my work.
Okay.
So I then decided I needed to study accounts. Um, Due to maybe, I would say, maybe a bit of financial constraint there, I had to study on part time and not full time. And also, this was because most of the programs here in Zambia They are flexible when it comes to accounting tuition, unless you do a degree. So I immediately went into a professional study, which is with the ACCA. I started out with a certified accounting technician qualification so that I could have some backing for the role that I was doing at Dad's work. It gave me a bit of good background as an accounts clerk. So I then had to go for work in the mornings. I shared my timetable with Dad. He allowed me to say, go and do full time and not part time. But whenever you have class, you're free to leave work and only come after you're
That's
done
nice.
with classes. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was doing school and working at the same time. Finished that qualification. I wanted to now progress to study more. Unfortunately, my dad's company was quite small, and he couldn't pay me at a very competitive price that could allow me to pay for uni and still retain me. So he then said, "You know what? There's a client looking for an accountant permanently in their company. So if you're looking to switch jobs, they are happy to do that so that they are able to pay you more." So I applied for that role and I managed to get it. And that's how I transitioned from Dad after working with him for almost 4 years. No, 3 years with him. And then transitioned to work with the other company while I was still studying. And I continued with my background of accountancy there. I studied all the way until I got my chartered accountant qualification. And then from there, I then ventured to do banking and finance, which I think you should have seen on my resume already. So my
Yeah.
lifestyle, I think from the word go, has been work and school. I'm
Yeah.
not one of those fortunate, I would call it, children who had the opportunity to be in school 100% and then later on build a career. So I started my career quite early. This is why I can say I have 15 years of work experience in the finance department. It's because it started quite early in
Yeah.
my life. Yeah.
And I guess it's interesting because I also am someone who worked all throughout university, started working at a young age. And I guess I don't know how you feel about this. Like, in one way, I looked at it like I didn't have the same opportunity. But then at the other point, I look at it like you said, you have 15 years now of experience in the industry, which puts you at a more competitive level. So
Yeah.
it's like, in some ways, it's like, yeah, I wish I had more time to be a kid and like do like normal things and
It
focus on
means
school.
yes.
But I guess I, I think that's one benefit for sure is like the that experience. And in some ways, that is
Yes.
an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, that's so. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So tell me now about MyScape. When did you get the idea to create MyScape?
Okay. So fast track from that second job, went through different business sectors, be the telecommunication industry, um, the motor vehicle industry. But in all these different sectors, I was working under finance. It's always had been finance, finance, finance. Not until I did my bachelor's in banking and finance with the specialization of microfinance management. Um, I must say, I did that degree program just to fulfill, I think, one of those things to say, I think all the kids have to have this first degree before they get their professional qualification. So for me, I did it in reverse. After the professional qualification, then went to get my degree.
Wow.
And after I did that, I really was interested in microfinance management, which was in my final year of specialization. And after having studied that, I then started to look for jobs around treasury investment. That I saw that as an area of interest. So I started to look for opportunities in that sector. Fortunately enough, I managed to secure a job as a treasury accountant in one of the international microfinance institutions here called Finca, where I started off in the treasury department. Um, worked in the Treasury Department, I think, for 3-4 months, and they realized that I was more of an accountant than a treasury person. So they immediately transferred me from the Treasury Department to go and do the accounting function, because clearly they could see I was really strong in that area. And yeah, not knowing that I had done it for a very long time. But I was grateful being an accountant in a microfinance institution. It still fulfilled, I think, the aspect of microfinance that I had studied and I was looking to explore. So going into the finance department, I was then attached to work with the business department, the commercial department that was out there offering financial services to the different clients, the vulnerables, the SMEs, and things like that. So I would always sit with the commercial department almost on a weekly basis, looking at their performance, looking at their targets. I would be the one to say, no, these numbers don't look good. Can you do this? So I was really involved with the commercial department. And from there, I noticed that my contribution to the department was quite strong. I had good understanding of the financial products. I had good understanding in terms of how to manage and reduce certain risks and defaults that come with microfinance management businesses and the like. So with that and some suggestions that obviously I could give, and the organization was not able to take on because it was international and not all decisions were made in the local subsidiaries. We still had to get approvals from a head office in Washington. So it caused me sometimes to feel like I would have wanted to have done it differently. And at the time I was working there, it was the time we were hit by COVID in 2019. So we had to work on remodeling, reforecasting, planning, and things like that. Amidst of COVID, a lot of defaults, people failing to pay, countries being shut down, activities going down. It was really hectic. And knowing the time zone between DC, Washington, and us here in Zambia, it's quite huge. It's about 7 or 8 hours gaps. Yeah. So you find I've had my dates midday, almost time to knock off. And the people in Washington write to you requesting for a meeting. So it's 5 o'clock and you have to stay on. You're in a meeting. They say, can we have this report back in the next 2 hours? You look at your time, it's midnight. And you're thinking, what's happening? So it was quite an intense, difficult year, I must say it. And for me, I am a workaholic, I think I must admit. When I get to work, I
Not a little bit. Yeah. It was kind of sweet.
yes, so when I'm working on something, I want it done and finished before I can go to sleep. So I put in quite a lot of time, quite a lot of, I think it was taking a toll of me. And I told myself, once I'm done with this last audit, because I was head number 2 in the finance department at the time. I said, once we are done with this, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry. Once we are done with this audit, I needed to have some rest, go home and maybe just take time off from work, because I was already feeling so tired. So at that point, I was really very much interested in microfinance management, designing products and the like. So I did 1 year extra into 2020 with Finca, and I resigned. And I said, I think I'm ready to go and try out on my own. I think the time I made that decision, I was 31. I had a conversation with my dad. He said, oh, you're retiring quite early than I did. Then I said, I think, yeah, because I'm the second generation, it should be a bit better than you did, you know. So we had those back and forth conversation asking me, are you sure you want to stop work to do this? And things like that. I said, I think I want to do something on my own. So even after leaving there, I got a lot of opportunities come through to me, asking me to work. But I think I was really tired to an extent that I just said I need to manage my own schedule. Me being a workaholic who would work to the AMs, if I'm doing it for myself, then definitely I'm building something for for my future as well as the generations to come.
Yeah.
So I really made the decision in that year to stop work and try and build something. So immediately after that, I started working on a microfinance business with one of the colleagues that I was working with. So we set up a microfinance business and we started to lend. As we were lending, I then thought I would not take the finance role. I needed to take operations now, just to give myself a fresh opportunity to try out something different. So I was more doing operations, product design, coming up with controls and systems to run the microfinance business. It was going well. In some days, I would be the one in the field looking for clients, doing all that. It was really great.
Yeah.
But with my experience in the field, I found myself very inclined to the women entrepreneurs. So whenever it was a woman, I was very interested to understand their business, see how best we could help them. When they're in defaults, I would be very interested in restructuring and seeing how we could support, knowing this is post-COVID period, people are going through all these
Yeah.
things. And I think one of my partners or who I was working with in that microfinance says, you know what, can you go and start a foundation? I think because if you continue with this approach of caring for these clients, then you're losing track of what we're here for. We're here to make money. Then I think from there, I started thinking, yeah, I needed to start something that was more of a social impact of some kind. So then there I thought, okay, since you've said that, let me try and start something on the side while I'm still working in the company. So I then explored a product which was purely women based, lending to women marketeers. And it went quite well for 2 years, made very good impact. In less than 6 months, we were able to reach more than 200 women entrepreneurs. It was not only about lending money to them, but it was also trying to get to understand how are they managing these funds, how is their business growing, what impact is this financing having on them. I had really great exposure to and see how do they think, how do they budget. Me being a number person, it never got out of my head as much as I was doing operations, but I would want to say, does this make sense? Is it making profit to them? And all those things. So with that product, I was heavily exposed and working with the women. So then after 2 years of working with them, I realized a lot of them started to default. The loan performance quality wasn't so good because I don't know what was happening. Then I thought to take a step back, I needed to do a research, find out what is causing these problems. Maybe I might not be giving the right assistance to the entrepreneurs. It could be because I'm not doing much background work with them before giving them the funding. So from there, then MyScape was born. MyScape Resource Center Limited, which aims at empowering women entrepreneurs as well as giving them training support to ensure that they are financially independent and adding to the socio-economic development of our country. So it was not only about giving them money. I said, okay, on one side, we're able to fund you with money, but on the other side, we would like to give you capacity, build your capacity to see how it is. So it was no longer come to meet Sandra and she gives you money, but it was come to meet Sandra and she assesses your business and helps you to understand what is it you need. At that stage, are you really needing money in your business, or do you need guidance maybe in terms of which product should you sell? Should it be the tomatoes or the onions or the vegetables? What's making more profit and things like that? So we then introduced the MyScape, which is a resource center to offer training support. So we were giving these training to the women entrepreneurs in their places of business. So we'd go to their businesses, we'd talk to them and engage them. And after maybe three to 6 months of having engagements with them, we could then recommend for them to get loans and things like that. So that's where MyScape came from, trying to bridge the gap that's there between them having access to financial services or financial support for their business, and them being successful in their business. So it's not just about having access to money, but then what do you do with it? What impact is it making in your life? And that is what we have been trying to do with the women entrepreneurs. I don't know whether I can talk about the recent addition to MyScape, which we have now done is we realized again after research that most of these entrepreneurs, they had very poor backgrounds, like the foundation of their business was quite wrong. Most of them started these businesses because their mother did it, because the neighbor is doing it, and they feel they can also do it. So we thought, why not meet these entrepreneurs at the start of their journey, which is usually when they complete high school. So we have added a component of an academy which offers career guidance as well as mentorship to the young graduates from either high school or university and looking to explore whether it be it entrepreneurship or securing a job. Because at the end of the day, those are the future entrepreneurs that come into the market. So we have added that component to our services, trying to meet these entrepreneurs at the early stage before they have this notion and mindset of how to do business. So that's basically what we are doing. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And because I know you mentioned I looked through your background and you mentioned like a holistic approach. Is this what you're referring to? Because this makes so much sense to
Yes.
educate before you get started, before you get the idea. 'Cause it's so much easier when you're first starting out to build a solid foundation than to go back and be like, okay, well, this business idea that you got from so and so is probably not your best idea. Like, you gotta go. Like, I can see how that makes sense. Wow.
Like that. Yeah. So the holistic approach is also in the sense that if you come now on the ground, is that you find organizations that only offer funding, but they don't give training. Or you find an organization that's giving training and doesn't give funding and refers you to other organizations. So we are holistic in the sense that you are it's a one-stop shop where you're able to get support financially from the same organization as well as get training. And also what we try and do is create this ecosystem that offers support to the members within our community. So I shouldn't have actual money to help this next entrepreneur to me, but if I'm offering a service that the other entrepreneur needs, then they could leverage on the fact that we're from one community and we belong to one network. We are then able to share. Like the best example I give is when I'm hosting an event for the women, I do not have to look for a vendor outside our community. I just say we have an event, who's doing deco, who's going to do catering, who's going to be the MC, people doing events, who's going to bring us chairs, and we get all these resources from within the community without even going outside. So this is the type of ecosystem we're looking to start out. So meaning you can imagine if we meet the young girls from high school, they already know each other. Even as they progress to be the future leaders in there, they know each other and they can already have this culture of coexisting and working together and belonging to this ecosystem. That's basically what we are looking to build.
Yeah. Having a strong network, I mean, both professionally, but just in your personal life, I think is so important. So I think that's
Yes.
you've covered every single base of setting up, a young woman for success and influencing entrepreneurs. And how do you see such a need? I mean, I know, of course, from my own background and work with She Who Builds the World, but why is it especially important in the region that these types of communities and organizations exist?
Okay, I think for me, what really resonates is the failure rate. It's quite alarming and really bad, really high in the sense that you find that most of these women entrepreneurs start out and fail. So they're always starting and failing and never successful, or they're doing something that never grows to a level that is talking about wealth building. It's just about survival. It's just for you to live today and see what tomorrow has for you. But if we are able to work in this manner, I see lots of opportunity for growth, and hopefully we can create a community that supports each other. I think we can see this happen, like we've seen it like from the Asian countries, and we're like, those people, they are all rich from one family to the next. It's because of the way or the approach they've taken. They're always supporting each other. When one is down, there's someone else to look out for the other. And I think that we lack here in Zambia specifically. We are always seeing each other as competition and not an opportunity to collaborate. So my message has really been that, even from the word go. Sometimes I even do things like I'm recruiting. I don't do one-on-one interviews. I'll invite everyone to come to one place and say, look, this is the opportunity we have. What skills do you have to bring to the table? And with that information, it's not possible that I will be able to help everyone or onboard everyone, but the others should take this as an opportunity to learn. Why was the other candidate picked and not me? What can I learn from this? I know sometimes the HR experts may say it's not professional, but it's from a place of trying to bring out this mindset to say you're not in competition, but you're there to collaborate and coexist with the next person next to you. Even when you're in uni, as much as you are trying to be successful, but you then also need to be mindful of the next person who's next to you. How then do you support them? How can you help them? So for me, I think this is where the need really comes from. Trying to create this new mindset. It's a change mindset that we really need to turn around from our current thinking and start thinking a bit differently. So yeah, basically that's my
Yeah.
response.
There truly is strength in numbers. And I mean, obviously,
Mm,
America, it's very individualistic, very
yeah.
competitive. Um,
Mm,
and I really like what you talked about wealth building. And
mm,
you talked, I mean, when we started our conversation, you were talking about how from a young age, your dad was, you know,
mm,
training you to be an accountant and
yes.
was set in, I mean, that is like some of the best knowledge that you can be handed down. Like I think of my father. I mean, he's a car mechanic, but
Mm,
he's so good at what he does because his father trained him to be like a great
yeah.
mechanic. And maybe he didn't go to
Mm,
school for it, but that knowledge is
mm,
so valuable. And you're passing that knowledge now on to young women to be successful so they don't have to go through those trials and tribulations and just have more streamlined success. So I think that's
mm.
truly incredible.
That's true. That's right. We need to learn from those who've gone before us and not having our own experience, which is the mentorship. So I think so many times I sit and say, I wish I knew this before now. But because I'm having those regrets, I shouldn't still leave the ones coming behind me to come and have the same words. We need to change that. And hopefully, with what we're doing at MyScape, we're going to try and make this change in our community.
My next question was, or you had mentioned like you hope that you will make this impact. Well, I think you already are making such an
Yeah,
impact. And I'm
yes, yes.
curious if you could share some one or two just specific um, women that you've worked with that have truly had a success.
Okay. We've got women that I have been working with since 2022.
Mhm.
Um, from the time we rolled out the women only product. And these women, I think, have shared quite a number of stories. We have them on our LinkedIn and website where they have explained how the support that we're giving them financially helps them in times of cash flow challenges. And if they want to inject and invest in the business, I must say, here in Zambia, getting a credit facility from the institution is very difficult, especially when you're starting out as an entrepreneur. So you see most of them having access, direct access to buy equipment, to buy equipment of their businesses, which they're still using in their businesses, and continue to get funding. I think one good example is my client who is into flower arrangements. When we started working with her, we were supporting her. She used to make flowers from home, make bouquets and sell things like that. And now we were able to support her. She's opened up a store in one of the big malls here in Lusaka, where now she has an outlet and she's able to make, so part of the room that she has on one side she's able to sell, on the other side she's able to store and use it as a small factory for her flower arrangement business, right there at Central Mall, which is really good and encouraging to see. And if you ask her, you see most of the funding she used, be it in the capital expenditures, be it in the stock to build the business, she got the support from our business. And we are always mindful to tell them to say this money, that fund that we're using is members' money. We have not gotten any funding from any external organization, but these are funding money that is pooled, crowd-funded kind of
Yeah.
source. So today it helps one entrepreneur, tomorrow it's helping the next, and the like. So you see most of these entrepreneurs who are benefiting from this pool have got very successful stories to say. I got the money to start maybe building my property for those who are building. I got my money to buy the equipment I'm using in my business. Like the lady I spoke about, she now has a showroom at a mall, and this is funding that we're being able to support her through the time of her business. So we've got some great stories and impact that we're making, and we're looking, obviously, as we go into the future, we could reach out to more and more women who are able to get value from the works that we're doing.
Great. Well, I'm definitely going to be sharing the links to the LinkedIn and just to share those stories, because I think that there's a lot of inspiration to be found with those stories. And I really like what I guess I just never think about it, because, you know, when
Yeah.
you're in a, yeah, when you're working in a different environment, I guess. But saying that, one success then sets up the success for another entrepreneur. And everything that you've been explaining just sort of seems to add to sustainability, sustainable wealth, generational wealth.
Yeah.
And then just within the community itself, like it's self-sustaining, which is really incredible. And that all started with you and the foundations that you had grown up with. And I think that that's really, really special.
Exactly. That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really about us. I must say the past years haven't been quite easy. Thankful for 2024. I think, when did I start? No, 2023. I think that's when I got to know Ava from She Rebuilds the World. I think I was at a point where it was almost a similar point when I was making a decision to stop work and starting my own business. I was really feeling a bit drained, overwhelmed, like these things are not happening, they're not moving at the pace that I would want them to move. And I just thought, you know what? I think I need guidance. I need some mentorship. I needed to hear from other entrepreneurs. What are the challenges? How do you succeed? How do you go through this? And I found myself on Facebook trying to look for opportunities for mentorship and things like that. Then I met the She Rebuild cohort, which I'm very grateful that I came across, applied, and I was successfully picked to participate. I think early 2024, January, we started we had our boot camp in 2023, 2024. We started out our session with Professor Mike Wells. He was also another brilliant addition to 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 my rising of this new me, because I think at that point I was really feeling defeated. And then I realized he told his stories as well about starting out businesses, the failures, the possible challenges you come across. Because, sometimes we have this perception to say, I'll start something now and it will be big tomorrow. It's never overnight. It takes time. It's a process. And not knowing that this process is one that sometimes is very difficult to overcome. But I must say it's really good when you've got support like such programs that the She Rebuilds the World is doing. It offers you the networking, it offers you the information. Like I was from typically corporate world and going into business, not much exposure in terms of how to start out the business. So I must say the other skill that I have came from the fact that in the past, I would work with small businesses where you're an accountant, you're an admin, you're HR, you're the receptionist, you're the marketing. So you get to be more exposed, like you're running your own businesses. So with that background, it made it a little bit more easy for me to then come and adapt as an entrepreneur because I already knew compliance issues, I knew HR issues, I knew how to manage teams because I was already doing it from the smaller organizations where I started out from. So, but there was still some elements which I did not know because learning never ends. It's a continuous process. I had new things to learn from the program, which I am really thankful up to now. Learned about how it's important always to test your ideas. We had the design thinking classes and things like that. These things really gave me a different perspective to how I would want to shape my success in the path. So I am now taking a different approach. And I'm from that approach, even when I'm coming up with new initiatives, innovation never ceases. It's competitive, a lot of competition out there. And to survive, you always need to be on your toes thinking, how do I stay creative? How do I stay competitive? And with that, it calls about new designs. You're designing, you're introducing new things. And with the knowledge we learned, it was really helpful. Now, whenever I'm thinking of a solution, I always think of the learnings that I picked from our business school um, classes. I always have to question, do I have customers for this solution? Do I have anyone interested to buy my product? Am I not making it from a place of passion?
Yeah.
Because I must say I'm very passionate about the business that I'm running, that sometimes I get really carried away and I start to give some of my services for free, and I have to tap myself and say, you know what? We're not only here to help, but we are also
Yeah.
here to make the money to ensure that we remain sustainably
Right.
as a business. So as much as all these things come to play, we still need to be able to exist profitably and thrive in a very difficult economy, I must say. So basically, we can speak the whole day. It's my
Yeah.
area
I
of
love
interest. So yeah, please feel free to cut me short if we're
No,
running
not
out
at
of.
all. I mean, as as a very early on entrepreneur myself, I feel like I
Mm,
learned so much from what you just had to share. So I hope that adding to your mission, adding to your passion of helping entrepreneurs, I really do hope that this message gets out and has an
yeah.
influence as well in the same way that you're already impacting your community. I know I personally took a lot of inspiration from all of this. And
Yeah.
just with one last closing message, what is your advice to, or your last message or advice to young female entrepreneurs?
Okay. So my message is not only to entrepreneurs, I would just say to female,
Yeah.
uh, the women out there. I would say it's never too late to start. That's number one. And don't wait for it to be too late to start. So the thing is that I think the entrepreneur world is not easy, but I think it's a bit easy when you start early because then you can take on as much risk as you could. Because when you start getting a bit older, I think in my children's university fees, you've got a lot of responsibility, and it's no longer about you, but maybe the responsibilities that you have. But if you start quite early when it's just you and your career, then you have more leverage to face the challenges that you are likely to face. So for me, I think I would really encourage the young ladies out there to start quite early. Don't wait until you spend 20 years, 30 years working in the corporates. if you've got something that you're passionate about and you'd like to see for it to work, start it now. Don't wait until tomorrow. And for those who still feel maybe they're quite late and maybe they can't start, please start. There's a lot of support now. There are lots of resources to hold your hand and see you through this journey. Yeah, they say it's better late than never. So please, we are there as well. Institutions like ourselves as MyScape to guide and mentor you through the process, be it when you're looking to start with what it is you want to achieve. So I think it's always important to take that first step. So it's one step at a time and do it as early as you can. Yeah, basically that's my message to the women out there. Mm.
So much. Thank you so much, Sandra, for sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, and your final message. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. And yeah, I'm excited to see more success from MyScape in the future.
Thanks, Kayla. Looking forward to more opportunities to come and share our stories. And hopefully next time I come with the entrepreneurs I'm working with.
Yes, please, please. I would love that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course.